Hi. So here we are with the fourth and final essay of our semester. What is the power of the monster? Now, considering that this is the final paper of the semester, and as such should be the very best work you're capable of doing, I want to open up the subject area beyond Chapter 4. You can choose your own topic for this assignment, but it must be developed as an argument based in research about something connected to monsters. For example, you can choose any of the making connection questions from Chapter 4, and we'll kind of go over that in a little bit. But that would be the basic thing. Our Chapter 4, what is the power of the monster? On the other hand, if you don't like that, you can choose to research and investigate a monster that has not been talked about this semester. You might particularly look at a monster from a non-Western tradition that has been overlooked. Argue how the monster reflects its time and place of origin. Or choose a monster that has been recorded in many different cultures and places throughout history and examine its different manifestations. What do those different manifestations reflect about the cultures from which they come? Such monsters could include dragons, vampires, witches, both male or female, werepeople. Okay, so people talk about werewolves. You hear about werewolves a lot, and we have a werewolf chapter in this Chapter 4. But in some cultures, people turn into other animals, not just wolves. Merepeople, we've had mermaids, but there are mermen too in some cultures, or any other such creature. If you've already done a paper on vampires or mermaids, you probably don't want to do this one, though, because I don't want you getting in any danger of plagiarizing yourself. Find a different topic of your own choosing that I haven't presented that seems appropriate for this assignment. Now, I will tell you, first of all, Chapter 5, if you're interested, you can dip into Chapter 5, which is really about the human monster. It talks about serial killers, mass murderers, autocrats, dictators, that kind of thing, because people can be the very worst monsters of all. Now, if you choose this option, you must communicate with me by Friday, December the 5th to make sure the topic is acceptable for this assignment, because I want you to be spending your time working productively. I don't want you to spend your time doing something and have me at some point say, hey, whoa, no, you can't do this, right? Again, choosing your own topic is acceptable as long as it is connected to the theme of the course, monsters. Don't try and reach too deeply into say, oh, cigarettes are a monster. No, I'm not going to take the cigarette paper. Trust me, not happening. Okay, so think about those issues. Now here's some important due dates. The final research paper is due by Friday, December the 19th by 11:59 p.m. Keep in mind that that is the final day of our semester. That's the final minute of our semester, as a matter of fact. Be sure to follow the out-of-class essay guidelines for matters of form and style. Be sure to include a word count at the end of your essay. Remember, you must meet minimum requirements, including word count, sources, and subject. No late essays will be accepted. I just can't, right? That's the end of the semester. Now, submit a thesis outline to Canvas by Monday, December the 8th, 11:59 p.m. Please have MLA citation entries for 4 sources, none of which are from your textbook. So in other words, you're already doing some really good research outside of monsters to see that you have the potential, at least, to write the paper. If you have a great topic but there's no research for it, it's not a great topic. A participation grade will be assigned for this, as we have done all semester long. Then, of course, the class will be divided into peer editing groups, as we've done for the previous 3 assignments. Submit your rough draft to your Canvas work group and to me by Monday, December the 15th, 11:59 p.m. Submit your peer editing sheets to your Canvas work group and to me by Wednesday, December the 17th, 11:59 p.m. Now the minimum requirements, we're doubling it. Okay, instead of at least 1,000 words, for this final paper, it should be at least 2,000 words. Still, we have basic strong essay structure, including introduction, concession, rebuttal arguments, main body, conclusion. For this assignment, we bump up the source count, to at least 8 sources, 6 of which originate in print or have print analogs, at least 4 of which are dissertations, peer-reviewed journal articles, or excerpts from university press books. Where are you going to find these materials? Well, you're going to find them through our library most easily, through our database called JSTOR, JSTOR, right, which you can find through the library databases, right? Go to our library website. And the other principal source will be the database called EBSCO, which actually is multi-databases, many databases, like I think 15 to be exact, all under the heading of EBSCO, which is E for EBSCO. Right? So if you're going through the A through Z databases, look through the E's and look through the J. It's the only JSTOR is the only one under J. That's easy. Please remember, our textbook does not count towards your minimum requirements, but it must be included if you use it. Okay? So if you're citing from our textbook, then yeah, of course it needs to be included in the works cited page and all that. It just doesn't count towards your 8. Okay. MLA format for all documentation, including in-text citations and works cited. That, of course, is standard. Now, let me just go back up to the top and just briefly walk ourselves through the Chapter 4. All right, Chapter 4 begins with a piece by a guy named Jeffrey Jerome Cohen. It's called Thesis 6, Fear of the Monster is Really a Kind of Desire. This is a very intense piece. I'm not going to lie to you. It's actually pretty difficult. It's difficult because it has a lot of high vocabulary, but also it has a ton of references, allusions to other works. And if you're I don't think anybody knows all these at first glance, right? You have to kind of look some of them up. I mean, I had to look a lot of these things up, right? He's a very dense writer. But his main argument is that we envy the monster because the monster has a freedom that we do not have. People live in a world where there are morals as well as laws, a sense of right and wrong, thou shalt nots. The idea that you should do certain things or should not do certain things is deeply ingrained in pretty much every human person. If you don't have that sense, you're probably a criminal, and a very, very intensely bad one at that, right? That's what makes the monster after all, right? The monster doesn't care about rules, doesn't care about morals, doesn't care about thou shalt not or religious teachings or social teachings or even what your parents taught you to do. The monster doesn't care. And it gives the monster kind of freedom that is beyond our imagination and for maybe a lot of us, even beyond our desire. But Cohen argues it is a desire, a kind of a desire. We may not fully want to be the monster, but there is still a part of that freedom that the monster has that normal people do not have. That makes it enticing and intriguing. Okay? So the questions that he asks is question 8. Cohen states the cooptation of the monster into a symbol of the desirable is often accomplished through the neutralization of potentially threatening aspects with a liberal dose of comedy. In other words, sometimes in horror, we laugh, right? And that's purposeful. It's not an accident. It's not an outlier. It's built into the idea of the genre, Cohen argues. Question 9. Cohen cites example from Quest del Saint Graal, which is the quest for the Holy Grail, in which Sir Bors resists sexual temptation by demons in lascivious disguise. To what extent is sexual desire a part of the allure of monsters? And how is that connected to the power that they have over their victims? Okay. Now, obviously, not all monsters seem terribly sexy, but some do, right? Obviously, the vampire is a first go around with that. But there are other issues as well, other monsters as well. That's what Coda is talking about there. The Howling Horror of Werewolves by Daniel Loxton. Yes, we finally get to talk about the werewolf. It's a long piece, but it's an easy to read piece. That makes up for the fact that it's pretty long. And there are 2 questions for this one. Loxton states there are numerous examples of animal transformation tales going back far to the beginnings of recorded stories. Research ancient stories of human-animal transformations. Okay, so you could do that. Werewolves play a big role in much modern storytelling, whether in books, films, TV shows, and more. Indeed, Loxton cites 2 popular stories that have positive werewolf characters, Professor Lupin in the Harry Potter stories, and the Quillette tribe shapeshifters of Twilight. Taking these and other contemporary portrayals of werewolves into account, what is the position of the werewolf in pop culture today? The next piece is called No Purabu and the Fear of Nothingness, which takes us to Japan, and also the issue of wearing masks. Question 8. No theater in Japan is a very old form of theater that uses masks. Investigate the use of masks in no theater and other theatrical forms that employ masks. What purpose does the mask serve in the portrayal of characters? How does the use of the no mask relate to the stories of the No Purabu and other faceless monsters? Then question 9. How does No Purabu having no face compare to the masked villains used in contemporary horror films such as Halloween or Scream? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson is next, along with Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, The Monster as a Metaphor. These 2 stories kind of good. Well, one is the story, another is analysis of the story, right? So in question 7, how is Cohen's observations about what we were talking about, the desire, connected to Robert Louis Stevenson, right, the Jekyll and Hyde? And in question 8, find other monster stories that feature 2 characters who are doubles, similar to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Consider the ways in which the use of the double is similar or different from Stevenson's double. A lot of doubles in literature. In Guedes' piece, Guedes cites the works of Noel Carroll and Jeffrey Jerome Cohen. Choose one of these 2 and learn about their theories of monsters. Noel Carroll has a book in our library. He's a very well-respected writer talking about monsters. In question 9, Geddes argues that Stevenson's story is a product of the rigid morality of late Victorian England. Choose another monster, either current or historical, and argue how it represents a fight for liberation from moral structures of its own time. A Quiet Place Monster is explained by John Krasinski. If you've seen that movie, it's, I think, pretty awesome. Question 7. For generations, audiences have been thrilled by stories of space aliens. Often aliens represent a grim threat to human existence, but sometimes the aliens come to help humanity. Compare and contrast examples of each type of alien. And in question 8, how does the space alien compare to other monsters in terms of representing a core fear or anxiety in a culture? Lastly is Christian Jarrett's The Lure of Horror. Question 8. One argument Jarrett makes for the lure of horror is that it connects to the horror of being prey, not predator. Research the far past of human species. How might our early human experiences have shaped our psychology to give us the power to survive in today's world? Question 9. Jarrett refers to Wade Davis's argument that in Haiti, people who turned into zombies through poisonous substances taken from pufferfish. This argument supports Kaplan. And then lastly, question 10. Jarrett reports on a study that showed that people with traditional values are more likely to be fans of horror than people with non-traditional values. Recall that Stephen King also argued